Well, right now, I say good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first global global author review. And of course, my name is Alex Devereux. I'm your host today, and I just want to say thank you, Gloria, for being so persistent in getting this thing done. This is a wonderful time for us because what's great about it is that I was thinking to myself, I said, well, look, what is so special about this particular event? What's special about it is that we have this wonderful knowledge exchange forum. We're exchanging knowledge and wisdom, things that you guys have experienced in your lives and things you have, you have thought about for like hours and days and even years. And you're able to take the time to just painstakingly document, put down on paper, the things that are important to you and your experience at the same time. So it's a very cathartic and also, it's transformational. So it's really a transformational message you're going to deliver to everyone. So, and I'm honored to have been given this wonderful responsibility to share this information with our audience. So obviously, what we have on the panel here, I'm Alex Devereux again. I'm the host, your moderator, I should say. And of course, with us we have three wonderful authors that will be sharing some wonderful messages. Starting with for Jacqueline Wales, and of course she hails from actually two places. Okay, one, the San Francisco Bay Area, slightly north near Sacramento. And then she also hails from Scotland, if I believe, right? You know? And then we have Michael Quigley, who will be following her, and he's in the UK. And he's, I think you maybe, maybe an hour south of Scotland, north of Manchester. So he's going to share some wonderful perspective, in that part of the country. And I told him, I said, I love the Lake District, So he said, oh, that's about an hour away. Oh, I say, great, yeah, fine. All I think about is eating right now. So speaking of eating, now, not only is she going to be talking about manners as it relates to being at the table, but manners and just simply interacting with other people in a variety of situations, more specifically, um, uh, business related experiences. And so I am honored to present to you Gloria Petersen, who will be speaking, following Michael, and she will share her wonderful message. So thank you all very much. And this is just a couple of housekeeping tips that I want to just make to you guys. And I'll share those a little later, but you probably want to know about me. My name is Alex Devereux. Obviously, I'm, founder of the Devereux Group, and we are a management consulting company that we optimize revenue generation, performance, and operational activity with companies. We look at the entire scope, and we also look at digitization and integration of their systems for optimization. So enough said about me. I too am an author, so I have a book, but it's not my forum right now. I'm just here to do the dance. So that being said, as far as housekeeping is concerned, please use the chat area because we'll be accessing the chat. Also, there's and the theme of our program today is about interpersonal skills. And so just be aware that that's our focus right now. Um, you know, each presenter will have approximately 10 minutes. So you just be aware of that we'll be switching. And then of course, they will also give you sort of an overview of the content of the book and how the book benefits the reader. And then of course, the remaining time, the second half of this program will be focused on questions and answers. So save the questions and answers. If you want to show some love to these wonderful authors, in the meantime, there's a little area where you can actually, in Zoom, where you can wave a hand, you can chat. And so I would suggest to you, depending on your format, there's a little area there in the participants area where you can raise your hand. And so you can do what people do in Zoom, I'm sorry, in Clubhouse. You can just wave it back and forth to let people know that, yes, this is a wonderful thing of presentation. Really enjoy what the author is saying, et cetera, and affirm to them by chatting. Okay, now, so thank you very much. So who's first up? We are now going to hear from Jacqueline Wales, and she's going to share her wonderful message. And Jacqueline, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alex. I'm now unmuted. And thanks for being here with us and moderating this conversation. I'm Jacqueline Wales, and I'm the author of The Fearless Factor and The Fearless Factor at Work. and soon to be the Fearless Women Leading the Way. I'm very much involved in helping individuals understand how fear operates in their world and how they can make a change to that. And my books are all about addressing where people get kind of stuck in that particular emotion and giving them some of the secrets and insights they need to develop self-awareness and really develop their careers and their lives in the direction that they want to. What else would you like me to cover, Alex? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Unmute. Well, actually, what we want you to cover, Jacqueline, is, tell us your story a little bit. Tell us about, who you are. This is your 10 minutes. So talk to us about, content in your book, what inspired you, the things that are important for you, et cetera, to deliver the message you're trying to deliver to those that read your book, and also, the inspirations you've also received from your clients too, because your clients have provided you some wonderful experiences.
Yeah, so the background on me writing the Fearless books was simply that I had been working with clients who had been stuck in many different ways, lacking in confidence, lacking in the feeling of capability, the imposter syndrome, many different areas that were basically fear generated. And what is fear? But it's a feeling of something bad is going to happen. And what I like to say is that for the most part, fear is imagination based. It's an emotion, and it's our reaction to that emotion, excuse me, that creates the problems in our lives and the areas where we don't step forward. So my first book, I did a lot of interviews with different women on how they had discovered how to be fearless in their lives. And that meant taking a lot of risk and taking charge of whatever the circumstances were. The second book became even more interesting because I had been working with a lot of middle managers. And what I found in middle managers is that they were really hungry to understand, how do I develop my self-awareness? How do I develop more trust with my colleagues, with my direct reports? How do I learn how to communicate more effectively? But what I also understood was that, a lot of the time they're not asking the right questions. So in both of my books, I ask an awful lot of questions at the end of every section because I want you to truly self-reflect, really get into this whole idea of the answers are there waiting for you, but you have to ask the right questions in order to find them. And I find that with many, many busy people, they don't have time to sit down and really do the self-reflection work. But nevertheless, their lives and their careers may not be moving as fast as they would like them to. So this is really an exploration. It's about being curious. It's about opening yourself up to other possibilities. And that's a big piece for me too, is that I really want to inspire and encourage people to think more deeply about how am I showing up in the world and what is it that matters to me, and dig down deep to find the answers to those particular questions. So as I said, the fear piece, we've been dealing a lot with it in the last year with the pandemic, a lot of uncertainty. But I've also know that, I like to say get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's the only way we change. And last year, there was a lot of discomfort as people started to look at their priorities. In fact, last year gave people a lot of opportunity to really do that reflection work, to really think about what matters to me and where am I going and what is it I need more of. So the second book, The Fearless Factor at Work, became like a virtual mentor, because not only do I give you the insights on the different aspects of building your interpersonal skills as well as your self-awareness, but I'm giving you the tools to be able to take that deep dive into the things that you are currently questioning or that you really need to think more deeply about. And so this has become my life work in a way. And as you can tell, I'm now going into my third Fearless book. And I've been writing for over 20 years. I have a novel that started this whole thing. And here we go. So whatever I can do to inspire and motivate, that's really what I'm all about.
Wow. Well, Jacqueline, that is just so appropriate for now, these times. Given what has happened, we've experienced in 2020, and the transition on both the tech side and also on the interpersonal side, it has become increasingly important for us to be connected and be fearless, as you make, appropriately direct your attention to that particular way of conceptualizing the experiences and being able to move folks forward. So thank you so much for delivering this message and also providing people an opportunity to explore it, in a very
Yes.
non-invasive, but also evaluative way. So I think that process is an
Yeah,
excellent
I
way
mean,
of
it's completely
proceeding.
non-threatening. I mean, this is a private process and you get to go through this for yourself. And all the books are definitely geared to allowing your self-study, if you like, and finding some of the answers. And I have a tagline that I use with my books, which is to be fearless, see where it gets you.
Right,
Because I think that's really the big thing about take more risks. People who are not achieving everything they want frequently are not taking enough risk.
right,
And I like to say RISK is an acronym for me is respect your intention and show courage.
right,
And I think when we can do that, then we become fearless, because being fearless is not the absence of fear. It's the courage to take the next step. And
right,
it sounds very simple, but I know how hard it can be. But that
right,
next step doesn't have to be the whole staircase or the whole mountain or the entire planet. It just needs to be one small step that will take you further than you were previously. And
right,
that's really it. And little by little, you start creating the life that you want.
right. And what's interesting about respecting intention, that intention doesn't get as much press as it should, because it means you need to think about something ahead of time,
Mhm.
and then you need to put energy into it. And so that energy is what enables you to be able to make that transition. So thanks for sharing your message, Jacqueline. We're going to move on to our next speaker. And then, of course, be sure those who are in the audience, be sure to make sure you use the chat area for any questions you may want to ask Jacqueline, et cetera. We're going to share. We try to give you some more input once we finish with all of our speakers. So on deck is Michael Quigley. And Michael has a very wonderful story to tell. And so we're very anxious to hear what you're going to bring to us from the UK. You're on
Thanks,
deck.
Alex. Thank you. I'll see what I can do in 6 minutes. So, hello, my name is Michael Quigley, and I run a business called Catalyst. We're based in the UK, but one of the reasons we joined the Global Chamber is we work online with all sorts of people these days. So, this is my book. Check it out. My brother designed the front cover. It's a Zentangle, so it's like a mental health thing. So, the idea is as you look at it, it helps you to relax. And if you sat there thinking, I just want to be able to get my health and my act together in all the different areas, but I don't know where to go. That's why I wrote that book. I went through an experience like we've all been through with COVID, but several years before, and it broke me, completely broke me. My mum said to me, she looked at me, she said, the light's gone out of your eyes. I don't know if you've ever had an experience like that. And I went through such a period of introspection and like Jacqueline was saying, self-reflection and what can I do to improve. And I was working as a teacher at the time, and I left because I said, I've got to write a book. I've got to go work with adults. I've got to do all these things. So I've got to get it out. When you go through a period of growth, as we've been through, you realize I need to share this with people. I've got ideas. So what I realized was, in my experience, there's now 5 parts to your health in our modern life. We have physical health, which we know about. Mental health, we talk a lot more about now, which is brilliant. We also have like a spiritual side. Some people religious, some people not. But those deeper questions, like what's it all about? Then we have an emotional side where a lot of people have been feeling a lot of pain at the moment through restrictions. But there's also what I call a digital aspect to your health. Now, when I was saying this a few years ago, people were like, what do you mean? Well, now Zoom fatigue, right, is a real thing. And spending too much time online can negatively impact, but also brings positive opportunities like we're doing right now. So I just thought, where would I go to get some help with that? And I didn't have the answer. So that's why I wrote the book. For people sat there going like, I don't want to be fabulous in every area, but I just want to, sort out my health in all these areas, So I wrote the book. The style of it, people say they like it because if you want to go deep and, read it all the way through and self-reflect, you can do that. But it's not designed to be chronological. It's not a novel. So another thing people say is they can just dip in and out. They go, oh, digital health. Let's have something to help with that. Oh, me mental health, inspiration. Yeah, I'll read about that. Yeah, my diet's not great. I'm going to look at that bit, or some deeper questions. Oh, I like that kind of stuff. And they've told me they find it's like a guidebook. So it's actually called Guidelines for a Holistic Happy Life. They're not rules, they're just suggestions, and things that I found really work for me, really work for clients, and when we look at the whole picture, that, a human being, as you know, is capable of incredible things, absolutely incredible things. So I've just finished my second book, literally today. I sent it to the proofread it to the publishers, and that's on leadership. Because as you know, when you start to write, Jacqueline and Gloria will tell you, and Alex, you just realize you've got a lot to say. And that if you can frame it in a way that people understand and is easily to digest and can help people, then there's a market out there for it. So that's my first book. It's almost like a love letter to myself, when I went through that difficult time, and to teachers, because I was a teacher. Anybody's a teacher, it's a great one for them. But then as I've gone into business, I realize it's relevant for people in business as well, because it's no good having the interpersonal skills of working with others. You don't have the intrapersonal skill of taking care of yourself, and they work together, don't they? So that's my book, Alex, and that's a little bit about it. So thank you very
Wow.
much.
Well, thank you, Michael, for sharing your story. I mean, I think it's so interesting and how relevant your story is for people, worldwide. I mean, depending on your age area, especially depending if you're in that millennial area or, even as a Gen Xer, there's a lot of emotional stress about the future. What's to be expected? How do I think about my future? It's changing rapidly. Technology is causing things to change rapidly. You don't know how to prepare for a job, et cetera. On top of all the other things we experience with family. And of course, I appreciate the intimacy of sharing your intimate response or reaction to a family member, and your willingness to feel and communicate and share that feeling. And you've got a wonderful mother, by the way. She is a wonderful lady. She inspired you, to take that area, that fear, as Jacqueline made reference to, and just turn it around,
She's
change.
there.
Yes,
So thank you.
absolutely.
She's there. You've got
Wonderful,
to put your mum in the
wonderful.
book.
And
Yeah.
most authors, have someone that inspired them in their lowest of the lows. And so you have this wonderful lady in your life. You have this wonderful lady in your life, and she continues to inspire you. So hats off to your mom, as well as a good job, as it relates to you really allowing yourself to take the bull by the horns and change your life. So thank you so much, Michael, for sharing that message with us.
Thank
and
you.
so last but not least is the lady of the hour here. She's the one that made this happen here. And so Gloria Petersen, this is your stage here. Share us your wonderful message, because you have some wonderful tips to share with everyone with the wonderful books that she has about, really making a connection with people, and both socially and in career and also in life. So,
thank you. Well, my books, or the reason I wrote my books, is a combination of inspiration and a get it done attitude. And those who know me know that attitude of mine very, very well. And during that process of things that I've had to go through to be talking to you right now, had a lot of grit. Because twice during my career, and I've been in my industry since 1985, a very long time. So don't add this up, you'll start to see my age. I just had a couple instances where I almost did not see tomorrow. I wasn't supposed to see tomorrow. I won't go into detail, but I will just say that one was a senseless act of violence that took place in a high-end department store in Chicago. And the other incident was actually what finally got the attitude, get it done, was when I ended up in the ER at the hospital and found out later that I had cancer. I had a silent cancer. I had the one that you don't know. There are no warning signs. You're usually find in an autopsy that you had this cancer because you were misdiagnosed. And I almost didn't see tomorrow then. Now I'm in the hospital and I'm reflecting during that time, because I'm going to be there for 7 days, still trying to figure out, I'm healthy, I eat right, I exercise, I do all the things you're supposed to do. What happened to me? Why am I here? And you go through that. And I laid there and I thought, well, I have spent a lot of time developing knowledge to share. And I just did not want, I just knew that if I don't take action and do something now, if it happens again and I don't see tomorrow, my daughter will definitely bury my laptop with me. I just know it. So I decided that's not going to happen. So as I laid there, I reflected on a young man from rural Illinois, who went to Harvard, graduated with honors, got a position at Microsoft, and in that position, he was going to be entertaining high-end clients. Now you're talking going to the theater, the opera, golf, all the things that he had not experienced. He was scared to death because he didn't want to admit to his boss he did not know how to entertain at that level because he just knew the fast food level. And so I was assigned to him or hired to work with him. And during that time, at the end, he said, why don't you just make it easy for all of us and just write a book about this? There isn't any book out there. He said, I've gone on the internet and I've looked, it doesn't exist. There's too many different places. So I thought, good point. At another instance, in another circumstance, I've done a lot of intern programs for like Lexus, Caterpillar, companies like that. And I was doing an intern program for international students, obviously all over the world for Caterpillar. And during the break, and I was covering networking. And during the break, a young man from, I think it was Turkey, they came up to me and said, I don't understand this thing that Americans do called networking. It is not how we do it. And when I listened even more, I realized what he was talking about are the different ways we network, the different options. There are lots of books on networking, but they really don't talk about the differences between a mixer and associated and association related, or referral clubs, or all these other different ways. We have so many different ways. And so I decided, well, I think maybe I better write a book and identify all the different ways first, and then how to go into a room and be comfortable in that room and get into the networking mode. So as I'm laying there, I thought, all right, I'm writing, I'm going to record all this because I don't want it to quote, die with me. So I laid there and I had my daughter bring my laptop to the hospital for me. I decided to go off the automatic morphine and take the pill instead. And they said, but you're going to feel the pain. I said, that's all right. I've got grit. I can handle it. I can handle it. And I started organizing the first chapters for my first book, which is the 7 steps to impressive greetings and confident interactions. And this is the foundation and framework for everything that you do moving forward. If you don't have this down, this takes you from the correct image to present, the body language that communicates confidence, how to walk up to somebody, make that eye contact, greet with a handshake. Of course, this is Corvid time, so we're careful with that. Exchange names. And what if the name is awkward for you? You're not sure what you heard because it's an international name or it's an uncomfortable name. Take the risk, mispronounce the name, then ask, did I get it correctly? And allow the other person to correct you. I mean, these are little things, but they mean a lot. And then engage in conversation. I had a young man at an intern program from Germany who thinks that our small talk is the most ridiculous thing he ever heard of, and didn't understand why is it necessary until I explained to him the purpose behind small talk and what it's about, and then how to engage into more in-depth conversation later. And of course, from there, you go to exchanging the business card and the follow-up. So I decided if you don't get these 7 things down, you are going to keep taking a step forward and 3 back, step forward and 3 back, and not knowing why. So I felt that was really, really important. And it's based on my own experience and obviously my observation. Then my second book was on networking. Now, when I write a book, if there's a level of knowledge that I think you need, but I haven't got, I can go take you here, but I can't take you here. I'm the first one to admit it, and I will engage somebody who can. So what I did here, when I moved from Chicago to here in 2007, I attended my first Phoenix Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and guess who was at my table? You only get one guess. The most fantastic people connector of all time. Guessed it yet? Doug. And that's how I met Doug. And when I wrote this book, I thought, that's a good chapter. networking is about how to be a people connector. It was like an aha moment for me. So I asked Doug if he would help me with that particular chapter, but nobody does it better than he does from my experience. And then Lon Safko is an author you will meet in a couple weeks, a few weeks from now. I met him and he had just written his social media Bible. So when I got into the online part of this book, I thought, okay, you're in here. So I actually brought people into the book that I felt if the reader needed to know that much more information, I brought them in and put that in the book. Then after that, and it's the one that Alex refers to a lot, is the dining one. And this one is really kind of thick, but it will take you from entertaining somebody at a coffee briska to entertaining at a black tie formal event. And for Caterpillar, that was extremely important because they represent their communities wherever they are at these events. And you need to know how to go from a very simple napkin and roll up napkin type flatware to maybe 7 courses, and maybe there's an arrangement of all the wine glasses and all the utensils, especially a unique fish fork, which is very different. And I put all that in here. I tried to dissect it, and internationally, there are 5 ways to dine and 5 different forms of service. And you need to know all 5. Because if you're dining with clients internationally and they're eating one way and you're going to eat a different way, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. You need to be able to know all 5 well enough and be comfortable enough that you can engage yourself in that type of dining and handling the food, plate, flatware and everything, and be totally comfortable. And then the last book, which I didn't think I had enough information for, turned out to be the most thickest. And this is about events. And the inspiration for this book was I was the protocol advisor for Motorola during the Olympics. And during that experience, I thought, I can't let that experience go away. People have to know about that experience. So what I did was put it in here, and a large scale entertaining. Of course, there's events that are retreats and on a smaller scale. But I had a logistics expert help me update some of it to today's, at the time of this writing, to what was going on there. So that is why I wrote the books, because as I laid there in the hospital, I reflected and all the things that people would like to find the information easier, faster. And oh, yes, this is important. I included an index so you can find what you need to know fast, because I thought that was also very important. And that's why I wrote them, because I wanted to create a legacy. So the word here is legacy. And should I move on or move on to another area, which I am right now, writing another manuscript. Michael mentioned he was writing another book right now, and I'm on my 5th book. And it is more about personal development. So more about your inner grit, how to identify it. Because certainly I have done it over and over again and made that discovery. Now I want to help you make that same discovery. So bottom line is, I want to help you with your professionalism. Take it to the next level. Develop more confidence in yourself so you can walk into the room and just be totally at ease with yourself. Because if you are at ease with you, everybody else around you is at ease with you. And get out there. Go for it attitude. Just go for it, because now you've got the confidence and you can do it. And that's why I wrote the books.
Wow, well, thank you, Gloria. What a very powerful presentation. All of our speakers have done a great job in sharing the message. And of course, yes, this is a very gritty, panel here, folks. It's a very gritty panel and very courageous panel, very transformationally oriented panel. But what I think is so interesting and so special is that you have these different perspectives. There's more than one perspective to share. So there's room for everybody. Just tell your story, share your message as it relates to you. And it would be the most unique, unique experience, unique perspective that can be beneficial for all. So you look at it in terms of a balance, like we're talking about interpersonal, for example, from a DISC standpoint, using DISC is an assessment tool that we use in professional, environments where you have these different perspectives, the D, C, I, S, but the goal is to be all of D, all of I, all of C, all of S. And so there's a lot of room for development. And so again, thank you all for sharing your message. Gloria sharing the grit, Jacqueline, getting the fear out there in front of us. And then of course, Michael, looking at the interpersonal dynamics in terms of, maturation and allowing yourself to face something that could be very crippling. And some people never get over bereavement. They struggle with it. So having all those perspectives shared in this grouping is very important. So now the good news is that we have time for questions, and we have a few questions. And so I'd like to start with the first question we have, and it's for Jacqueline. And of course, that question is, why are we afraid? And so we reduce, end it, or manage it. How do we, basically, I guess what they're saying basically is like, how do we, manage it in a very, sometimes ineffectively? You're muted.
I think what the question is that how do we manage our fears? And one of the things that I would say about fear is, as I said earlier, it is an emotional piece in your life. And so you have to question it. Are my fears real? And whatever drama you might see as a result of the fear, ask yourself, is it true? Is it true I'm not capable? Is it true that things are going to go off the rails? Is it true that someone else is going to interfere with whatever it is that's going on? There are a whole variety of experiences that you can apply that question to. But I think, again, to my point earlier, I'm all about examining the head trash, frankly, because negative thinking is what's driving fear. And a lot of people get caught up in fear because they presume that, what's going to happen in the future may not be the best case scenario. Well, that may be true, but it could equally be the opposite way. So why not try to frame things up that way? But really understanding your fears is like, truly asking yourself the question is like, here's the big deal. Am I going to fail? People are terrified of failure. I hear this all the time. I'm really afraid of failure. Well, we're all failing our way to success. And so if you think about, your successes and failures, the success column is always much longer than the failure column, because a failure is simply a choice, an expectation, or a decision that didn't go the way that you wanted it to. So what's happened? You go next, and then you keep moving on. So these are the areas where you can really combat the fears, because it really is about examining them. And that, of course, is what a lot of my books are about. Examine your fears, because I'll guarantee you most of it is just the stories you make up. That's what fear is. It's the stories we make up to put a label on the uncertainty, or to find some kind of rationalization for the uncertainty.
And Jacqueline, I've heard this with, false evidence assumed real is another way to look at fear. So we all have fear has been prevalent with us always. But I'd like to now respond to a question that was sent to us for Michael. And of course, the question is, how do you stay focused to get your first book completed?
That's a really good question. So to understand how I did it, this is just my way. Gloria will be different, Jacqueline will be different, Alex, everyone's different. So I had two forms of therapy. I had bereavement counseling, because we had 8 deaths in 5 years in the family. And then I had CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. And as part of CBT, they say your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, they're all related. So the lady said, just start writing 3 things you're grateful for, or 3 things you enjoyed every day. And I said, okay. So I did it on my phone. I've done it for 4 years, something like that, every single day. So I was just writing it down. And that built the habit of writing. People say, how can I write my first book? I say, a writer writes. Forget everything else, just write something. So then that led me to go, I'm going to include a picture today, or I'm going to put a deeper reflection today. And it just built from there. And I got into this habit where I was writing every single day. And it just started to flow quite naturally, if that makes sense. And then I actually only came up with the first 2 parts, put that out as an ebook on Amazon, and that sold, which was amazing. And then I went back to the other 3 parts and realized this was part of a bigger thing. And one of the other parts of the question was, the person said, any surprises? I said, yeah, the fact that a publisher wanted it straight away, because like Jacqueline was saying, we expect failure. We expect people to go, that's rubbish, what you've written there. And they didn't, and they accepted it straight away. So what I'd say is, for me personally, I like to demystify writing and say, just write something. You got something you feel strongly about, something you know about, write it. The format of how you write will evolve over time. So I write on my phone, and then I upload it to my laptop, and then, because I don't like to sit in one place, I might, go and write as I go. But that's different for everybody. So mine is a little bit unique. So it actually comes from the therapy I went through, but it built that habit. And so I'm doing it today, just still writing it on my phone every single day. So.
That's fantastic. Well, Michael, that's so inspiring especially for someone that is not sure if they have a message to be delivered. And then they recognize or suddenly connect with the fact that there are other people that are having similar thoughts, which makes it easier for them to, maybe pick up a pen or their phone. It's very convenient now. Or now you can do it digitally. You can go on Loom. You can do it on Zoom. You can talk through it now and record it, and then of course be able to deliver the message. So thanks for sharing that story with us. Very good, very, very, very important one for aspiring writers to hear. And so there's a question for Gloria. And Gloria, the question is, what has been the greatest thrill for you in writing your books? Now, you've written already 4 and you're on your 5th, so there's got to be something inspiring there. So what happened, Gloria? Tell us.
To see it done. Are you kidding? It's a process. I'm more methodical than Michael maybe, and maybe Michael, I think with my 5th book, I'm being more like you, except I'm not doing it on my phone. I'm doing it on my laptop because I'm really, really glued to my laptop. Okay. But it's just, I created, when I did programs, seminars, and workshops for corporations, I would create binders of material, handbook, because I wanted to make it tangible. And I'm so glad I had that tangible attitude, because there were so many people that I've met along the way who presented workshops, and my participants would say, well, we never got anything like this from our last workshop leader or speaker. We didn't have to take notes. I did all the work for them. But the good news in doing that is when I decided to write the books, those little combs on the end, I started ripping them off. And then I started organizing all of that into categories. Like this one's going to be about names. This one's going to be about conversations, pulled all that from all of them. And then I started pulling it together. And then the challenge was not to copy and paste repeatedly the same information, maybe the same paragraph or maybe the same thing I said, but I said it differently. So I'd already created the original thought and the original ideas. So when I decided to write the book, I just pulled all that together and started. And so I guess to answer the question, it was just, I'm like a project manager. I like to see things from beginning to end. And I love seeing the end result. So that's my inspiration, when I actually see the end result of whatever I'm doing come together.
Wow.
Even this is one of mine right here, the end result of an effort I started a year ago.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that perspective of being the project manager. When you start a project, obviously you start with a charter, to say what your intentions are, who the participants or the stakeholders are associated with this, what resources, et cetera. And then you move into the scope of work, and you look at the scope and what's going to be required, et cetera. And then you look at, all the other things that follow along with, a project. But most importantly, when you start to look at, when you have the end in mind, that is what inspires you to finish, especially when you're getting close. Now, there's a little bit of risk analysis that you do in the meantime, and that's where the fear factor comes in, right, Jacqueline? Where all of a sudden now you're saying, well, what if this doesn't work? What if it's not right? What if they don't like it? What if, what if, and so you have to respond to what if and say, well, look, what, this is something we're committed to and we need to finish it. And we'll take those licks when we get them, if we have them, or if no one's responding the way we expect them to. So again, thank you for sharing that perspective. Very important from a management perspective. And of course, now I think I have a question. I'm trying to check my questions here.
I'll add, while you're looking, Alex, I'll add this part to it too, because I am so, not sold on this, but adamant, I guess is the right word, is you're going to have obstacles along the way. You're going to have people tell you that, well, that book's not going to sell. I heard that many times. It's not going to sell. People don't want that information, et cetera, et cetera. I think when you go inside yourself and ask yourself, how important is this to me? Don't worry about anybody else. How important is it to you to get this thing done? And then you should do it and just get it done. And you will have obstacles, you will have challenges, but you will also learn, or you will also come in contact with, reword that, your inner grit. I didn't know I had grit. I didn't know what that word was until I was met with the challenges of my life. And I thought, oh my God, that's what that is. It's called inner grit. Just reach in and let your inner grit take you all the way.
Yeah.
Beyond the obstacles and just get it done.
And I would also like to second with you, Gloria, that, you know, when you write a book, you're writing it for yourself first and foremost.
Mhm.
This is something that's important to you. It's a piece that matters. And as far as the audience is concerned, a lot of it is, you know, and this is going to sound a little woo-woo, but you kind of leave it up to the universe to just how many people are interested in what it is you have to do. Because the driver is absolutely about, you know, I'm writing a book. And of course, when you write a book, you've always got one reader in mind. And, you know, who do you want that ideal reader to be? And what are you addressing for that person? But it is your own journey. Every book becomes your own journey. And it's certainly been the case for all of my books. And you know, who knows? And surprise the hell out of yourself actually afterwards. And you know, there was a question somewhere along the line about, you know, publishing versus self-publishing, which is a whole big ball of wax in itself. But as a self-published author, I can tell you right now, A, you make more money when you self-publish, and B, you're in control of the whole process, which makes a big difference right there. But anyway, that's my 5 cents worth.
But I would like to insert something here that I think is very important, and that is intention. You know, it's important for you to start with self, but I think you have to have an intention to reach others. And so at some point you have to take others under consideration and trust that you will connect with those others that can connect with your message to validate it, you know. And so that's part of what enables it to be something that is shareable, you know, and that it is something that now you're contributing to the development of those that are listening or looking for that message. So in your heart, I think you have to have an intention of wanting to reach the right people at the right time for the right reasons. And based on what I've read about Michael and how people responded to him, you know, they resonate with that message. You know, Jacqueline, I've looked at questions that people have, you know, asked here just today, and not all of them we can answer them, but I do have one for you before we close down. You know, they're resonating with your perspective. And Gloria, you know, those that have fumbled their way through, you know, social situations and environments and felt uncomfortable and felt very self-conscious about, you know, where they were and if they were appropriate or inappropriate, et cetera, you know, your message was like was saving grace, especially with the corporations that you supported and making sure that people were able to carry that brand in front of that audience the way they needed to. But I have one other question I'd like to share, and that's with Jacqueline. And that is, the question is, and I think this is a very important one too, because of what's happening nowadays. How do you suggest those working globally, you know, expats or whomever, take special care to overcome fear?
Well, I think number one, and I have lived in different cultures throughout my life. Number one is get to know the culture that you're dealing with, because the insecurities that come up, especially as an expat, are enormous. You've got language difficulties, you've got culture difficulties, you get the day-to-day stuff that you've got to get your head around, you know, things that, you know, I'll give an example. You know, in France, they love to do the cheek-to-cheek kissing thing, and sometimes they do 3, and then somebody once gave me 4, and I was like, I was already backing away, but he was coming in for number 4, you know, and I felt really awkward, you know, it was like, oh, I feel like I'm withdrawing, but the truth of the matter is that had never really been explained to me. I understood the 3 part, but 4, yeah, that was kind of getting a bit friendly, but being is you got to really understand the culture, and you've also got to know that difficulty, that uncertainty, that fearfulness about making a mistake, a lot of them are actually very forgiving. It's like, yeah, you're a foreigner. What do you know? So I would say give yourself a break on that one too, because especially if you have a perfectionist tendency, and many overachievers do, it's simply about, relaxing the standards here, because you can't. I got lots of stories about living in France and Amsterdam and Indonesia that, were damned uncomfortable, but we got through it. And that's the other side of it. You live and learn kind of thing. So I know that's a kind of long answer to the question. There's no simple answer to this, but learn as much as you can and allow for the fact that at times, yeah, you won't get it together, but people are incredibly forgiving because they know this is not your natural milieu.
Wow, thank you. That was very, very, very helpful. In this day and age, like, is there anything to be concerned about? And this is for any panelist, anything to be concerned about in any country, or if there are any challenging situations that you've been in that you had to respond in a particular way to recover from, let's say, maybe being startled in a situation where you had concerns or fears or whatever the sort is. So I'll just throw it out to the panel, because I'm quite sure somebody has some personal.
I'll follow up with that for a second, just by saying, don't beat yourself up when things don't go the way that you think they should. Because, you can agonize over it, and you can lie in bed at night and you can obsess over all the things you could have done right, could have done wrong, blah, 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 did wrong. So being gentle with yourself, self-compassion, is a really important piece of interpersonal skills. And this is a piece I talk about with my manager folks, especially for the overachievers. You've got to have that kindness to yourself when things don't go quite the right way. So that's a big piece right there. And that might sound like that's a little woo-woo, but it's actually a real thing. We all need to have more self-compassion. I don't know about the rest of the panel. So go have at it, Gloria.
I'm sorry. And I know with Gloria, for example, in social situations, there's always that fear of awkwardness. And, talk about the triple and the quadruple kissing, right? And you hope it's on the right cheek, it's a concern, especially as someone you're questioning whether or not you want to be that close to. But there's other greetings too. Like, for example, when you're in Asia, and to shake or not to shake, that is the question. Do you bow first, kiss, bow, shake? I think there's a book out, about that. But Gloria, I'm quite sure there's some of some of those awkward engagements. You have something to share about those situations.
Well, I don't want to steal somebody else's thunder. And the last speaker in our series is the person who wrote Kiss, Bow, Shake Hands, Terry Morrison. And she addresses all of that. So I don't want to take her thunder away. But what I do want to add is the confidence. Confidence is knowing. Confidence is knowing what to do in any given situation. And it's in being prepared. Not going by the seat of your pants and just throwing yourself out there thinking things will just work out. Just know. And that's another reason why I wrote my 4 books, because they're all about confidence. They're all about giving you what you need to know so you don't embarrass yourself. Because when you embarrass yourself, you have a hard time rebounding from it. It's very difficult. So why do it in the first place? Just know. Yes, just know.
But sometimes, Gloria, we get embarrassed before we get confident. And so we've got to recover from embarrassment.
Well, then there's the power of the rebound. You can actually take a rebound and have it work for you.
Okay.
So you embarrassed yourself. Big deal. They probably have done it themselves at some time. What can you do to rebound from it, to make it better, to correct it, to put a Band-Aid on it, if you will? And that's what will be remembered. It's like people, there's a beginning of a book, there's a middle of a book, and there's an end of a book if you're reading fiction or something like that. And mine's more of a guidebook, so it does fall in that category. People remember how things end, the story ends, way longer than they remember how it began. So you have an awkwardness in the beginning, but guess what? If you can recover from it and do the right thing and mend it, this is what they're going to remember, is what happened at the end.
So what you're saying is finishing strong.
Mhm.
Always intend to finish strong. Back to the
No
intent.
matter what.
Very important. So Michael, what do you have to say about this?
Something that I tell my clients, I actually taught it this morning because I'm in the UK, so it's the afternoon for me, is confidence is a skill that can grow. So I give them a little formula. So in this context, it might be your ability to write a book, right? Competence plus consistency equals confidence. And that kind of echoes what the ladies are saying. If you've never done something before, you're not going to be very competent at it. You know, I've written one book. My second book is better because I'm better at writing. I'm more competent, right? And I've got more consistency. Someone like Gloria's written so much. So she's highly confident because she's very competent and consistent. And so is Jacqueline. You know, so I say that to people, you know, your confidence can grow like a plant. It's not just like a light switch. You either got it or it's on or it's off. You know, that competence and, like Jacqueline was saying, self-compassion. How can you be highly competent if you've never done something before? You know, like she's saying, failing to success. So yeah, competence plus consistency, and then you'll feel that confidence.
Right. So
And
basically, I'm sorry.
I just
Go
want to say, and it doesn't mean that I don't embarrass myself, have awkward moments, or do the wrong thing at the wrong moment. It doesn't mean I don't do those things, but what it does mean is when I do it, and I'm guilty of it, I recognize it. I recognize it right away, and I thought, oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, I know better. I so know better. But recognizing it and think, the next thought is, okay, now what can I do to reverse it?
Right.
Too many people just let it lay and let it fester like a wound.
Right.
And then it goes into Jacqueline's fear factor. They're afraid to go out there again, right? They're afraid to present themselves again because they embarrass themselves. And now we have fear.
Right.
That's right. That's exactly, and that's what I'm saying earlier. It's all a mental model that you set up for yourself. And so, to your point, Gloria, we're talking about resilience here. You know, you all fall down, get back up, perseverance thing. But you know, you got to get back up again. You got to get back on the bike in order to take the next point. And I agree with Michael entirely. The competence, confidence factor is very, very important. And we all have times when we don't know what we don't know. And of course, learning that particular piece is understanding where your blind spots are and figuring out, you know, what that is. And again, how to make it better, how to correct it.
Wow.
So,
Wow. That's fantastic. You know, gosh, when just listening to this conversation, it reminds me of, and of course, having two people from the United Kingdom or who is associated with the United Kingdom, you know, and I'm thinking, all I could think about is golf. And I'm thinking to myself and said, well, you know, think about it. You hit your first shot and of course it's in the fairway, but you still have a few more shots left. And if that particular shot wasn't the exact shot you wanted to hit, you have to just pick up your bag and walk over to that shot and hit another shot. So it's about moving forward. It's about making sure you remember that you've hit this ball before, that you can hit it again, and eventually you can finish this hole. But then if you're playing 18 holes, you've got 17 more holes left to play. So you have to pick up your bag and just prepare yourself to repeat it as often as possible and try to improve on each stroke. You know, and that's the name of the game. And that's the game we're talking about, the game of life. We have to just simply pick up our bag and keep swinging and trust that at some point we're going to hit a better shot. We're going to putt better. We're going to get closer to the hole. And then eventually we're going to finish that round and then we prepare ourselves for the next round. So that being said, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. And I'm going to check to see if there's a small question because we're running out of time here, or maybe we don't have enough time to squeeze in because you guys have covered so much ground for these folks, and I really appreciate all the wisdom that you've shared with them. You know, we've gone from knowledge to wisdom, and of course things to be aware of and look out for, and to increase your competency. And so all I can say is, we have more to come in this series. We have some wonderful speakers that have yet to present. And I look forward to each successive, you know, session. Next week is our next session, same time, same station, you know, maybe not the same link depending on who's presenting, but nonetheless, we have all these wonderful messages we're willing to share. Now, all of our speakers have have ways for you to access their materials, either on Amazon or special link through their website. So I encourage all participants to, first of all, access these speakers, pay them homage and of course honor the work that they've done by considering learning more from them through their texts that they've produced. And that being said, are there any questions or any comments speakers would like to make upon ending this?
Well, I'll do the fear piece, which is, first of all, examine your fears. Don't allow your first thought to be the ruling piece, and test yourself on the assumptions that you're making around your fears. That's really critical. Test your assumption on your fears. 9 times out of 10, they're not real.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Michael?
Integrity. It's the only path where you won't get lost. That's why I love the Global Chamber. That's why I respect everybody on this call. If you do what you do and think and act with integrity, you've got that intention of integrity, doing your best, whatever that is in that moment, you won't go far wrong. Whether that's writing, speaking to people, engaging, just do it with integrity, you'll be fine.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Gloria?
Be professional, always, because professionalism never offends.
Absolutely. Wow. And that being said, thank you so much, my panelists. Thanks my audience for taking time out of their day to listen to these wonderful messages. And of course, I feel honored having this opportunity to support you all in sharing your stories and of course supporting the facilitation, if you will, of the edification of our wonderful membership. So thanks again, everyone. And of course, look forward to us next week, because same time, we're going to have another group of wonderful speakers that are going to be, that's going to wow you again. So have a great, wonderful day, wherever you are in the world. We can actually say that, right? Everywhere in the world, you have a great day. And thank you, sir, or evening. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.